Hello, Namaste, and welcome to April's wrap-up video. I read 7 books in April, which I am very surprised at, and I would say, I think it was partly because I went on holiday, so I had a bit more time to read books, but also I think there was a slight element of pressure for BookTube for me to read more, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because I don't know if it was too much pressure. Having said that, I'm glad I read the books. I didn't rush through them and I really enjoyed most of them. So, I mean, the ones that I didn't enjoy as much were more because of the books rather than me forcing myself to read them, if that makes sense. So yeah, I read 7 books and I will go through them with you now. The first book I read was The Unhoneymooners. It was the book that we chose as part of my book club, and I read it, was it on holiday or did I get through the whole book on the plane on the way to Mexico? I can't remember, but it was the first holiday read, and for me I would say it is an easy holiday read. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, and overall I thought it was a good book. It just wasn't a great book for me. Was it a good book? It was an okay book. I'll start by saying it's an enemies to lover with a dash of fake dating in it, and for me that type of trope is really hard to win me over with it, simply because I do like a bit of an element of surprise, bit of mystery, and I feel with that trope you know which direction you're headed in, because if it's a romance then you know the fake dating is more or less likely to lead to real dating or the romance. And yes, I know it's more about the journey and how they get there, but this journey itself was just a bit flat for me. So our main character is Olive, who is a bit of a pessimist. Well, she would say she is more of a realist rather than pessimistic. She just believes, she does seem to have a lot of bad luck with it's her love life, her career, just life in general. She seems to have been dealt a bad deck of cards, and her twin sister Amy seems to be the exact opposite. So on Amy's wedding day, something happens that prevents Amy, the bride, and her groom from going on honeymoon. Amy offers her sister Olive the chance to take her place, and it is an all expenses paid for holiday to an amazing place. I believe it's Hawaii, I can't remember now. And the only issue is that Olive would need to go on this honeymoon with the best man Ethan, who Olive despises. So they end up going on honeymoon. That's not a spoiler, it's in the blurb, so you know that's going to happen, and the story progresses from there. Olive I surprisingly liked. I think it's because I'm a very positive, happy-go-lucky person, and so I had a feeling that if she is someone that's always looking for the worst or believing the worst is going to happen, I just felt like it might be a bit difficult to like her. But I did really like her. She's very honest, endearing, down to earth. So I liked her. I was rooting for her. Ethan, our main character, our main male character, I didn't see the attraction, other than Olive being physically attracted to him. I didn't get what was so great about him. Further on in the story we learn a bit more about him, but still it wasn't enough for me to personally think, oh wow. So yeah, there was that, and it was just, I found myself bored at a lot of the time. For me, it picked up after the honeymoon had ended, especially during the last third of the book. I was hooked. And then I was really underwhelmed with the ending, and that was it for me. So that's why it got 3 stars. There was a part near the ending, a bit of a twist, which I really enjoyed, and I don't know, I feel like when there's like a best bit in the book that I can depict, it says a lot about the rest of the book. I don't know, that's just me. Yeah, a 3.5, no sorry, not a 3.5, a 3 star for me. It's unfortunate because it's my first Christina Lauren book, and it hasn't enticed me to read any of their other books. Maybe in the future I will, but for now I would say that I am definitely having trust issues with BookTok. I'm not on BookTok, it's just I do read a lot of books that others have told me or have recommended to me through BookTok, and I just had high hopes for this one. and they weren't met. The next book that I read was Legendary by Stephanie Garber. It is number 2 in the Caraval series, and I loved it. I loved it so much that I went out and I got myself the last book in the trilogy finale, and I finished that as well in April. So yes, that is part of the 7 books that I've read. Oh my gosh, I devoured both books. I'm trying to work out how to explain the books to you. I did cover this in my previous video as well, but I find it difficult to try and explain a book that's part of a series without giving away what could have happened in the previous book. So maybe let me see what the blurb says, because if I don't go further than what the blurb says, then I'm not spoiling anything. And if I am, then don't blame me. It's already there on the blurb. So let's see. Book number 2, A Heart to Protect, A Debt to Repay, A Game to Win. So Caraval is, I think I might do a separate video for the trilogy because I do really love the books. Caraval was my first book back into fantasy after a very long time. I don't even know after how long. And that's exactly how I would describe the series. It's the perfect introduction to fantasy. So Caraval is about 2 sisters, Scarlett and Donatella, who have this fascination about visiting Caraval, which is kind of like a fun fair, circus, not circus, more of a fun fair that comes every so often. I can't even remember how often. You get invited to play, and at the end of it, whoever wins gets a wish granted by the Caraval Master Legend. Book 1 was Caraval. Book 2, which again I read on holiday and I devoured, was Legendary. And Legendary, we follow Donatella. So book 1 was more about Scarlett's story. Book 2 is Donatella's story, and she seems to be a bit more of the mischievous sister. I'm just going to read some of the book description so that I'm not giving away too much of the book, which I'm scared I will do. Okay, first of all, I don't recommend reading the description on Goodreads because I just read it out and I've edited it out because it has a major spoiler in it. So I'm just going to go through what I believe is the blurb. I've returned the book to the library, so I don't have the book with me to read the blurb. However, this is what I've managed to find on the Waterstones website, which I believe is actually on the book. Caraval has always demanded bravery, cunning and sacrifice, but now the game is asking for more. If Teller can't fulfill her bargain and deliver Legend's name, she'll lose everything, maybe even her life. But if she wins, Legend and Caraval will be destroyed forever. Games have only just begun. I feel like that's not doing enough to lure you in. However, it is the second book, and I would not recommend reading the second book without having read the first. And if you've read the first one and you enjoyed it, then you will definitely want to read the second book. I'll leave it at that. So book 2, Legendary, I was hooked within, I think, the first 3 pages. The pace of the book didn't lessen for me at all. And I think that's one of the things I really enjoyed about it. One thing that I loved about the book is how the author, the way she writes about colour, it's like a melody. It's like music to my ears, the way she writes about colour. And I really, really loved that about her writing style. It's not a style actually, it's just something she's implemented into the book. And it makes a lot more sense in book 3. But she has a lot of it in book 1 and even more in book 2. And I just love that about the whole colour thing. I also enjoyed the fact that there were so many different possibilities to the story that my mind was racing, because I'm always trying to think, oh, could this happen? Could this happen? Could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this person? Could it be this person? And I like that there were so many possibilities in this without getting overwhelmed. And so the mystery element was there, although the book itself wasn't really, I mean, it's not a targeted mystery, but there is that part to the book as well that I really enjoyed. And then there's some parts of the plot where I guess I found it quite easy to guess, but although you kind of know the what and you have guessed it, the why still isn't there. So you're still wondering, okay, I might have known this about this person, or I knew this was going to happen, but I still don't know why it happened. And that's still playing at the back of your mind. I enjoyed all those things about the book. I think the only thing that really let it down, I mean, it didn't let it down for me, it just wasn't quite there for me, was Book 1 was based around Scarlet, and I really love Scarlet's character in book 1. But in book 2, although the book was based on her sister Donatella, who again I loved so much, Scarlet was in book 2 not for as much, but I don't know, something about her character shifted in book 2 for me, and she just wasn't the same. I don't know, I just didn't get the same vibes from her. But that's just me being super picky, and it's probably the only thing that really I didn't like as much about the book overall. But definitely a 4.5 for me. I love that book. I would recommend it, and as I said, I recommend the whole series. Finale, again, I absolutely loved. I'm still unsure as to whether it's a 4.5 or a 5 for me. The more I think about the ending, it becomes a 5. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, this is nice and simple. A love worth fighting for, a dream worth dying for, an ending worth waiting for. I could not have said it better myself. I mean, clearly I didn't write the book. I'm not marketing it, so whoever did summed it up perfectly, I think, for this. I'm not going to read what's written in here because it is a huge spoiler. And I didn't read it, to be honest, but simply because I knew I wanted to read these books after reading the first book, that I didn't want to know what was going to happen. I didn't want to be expecting anything. I like surprises. So I didn't read them, and I'm not going to read them to you. I know you can go ahead and read them yourself, but just don't. Read the book. Forget the descriptions and the blurb. You'll enjoy it. If you liked the first book, I find it difficult to see how you would not love book 2 and book 3. With Finale, the ending was just right for me. Did I want more? Yes. Because I love the character so much, and I love the way she tells her story. I wanted more in that sense, but I'm happy with the way that it ended, to the point where the last few pages for me was like proper ear to ear smile, full on Cheshire Cat type of grin. If I had to be really picky, then I might have wanted a bit more from a few of the other characters that were mentioned in the book. They were part of the story, but I didn't know quite as much. Well, I would have liked to know a bit more, but again, that's just me being picky. It didn't take away from my enjoyment of the book. I really liked the element of the decks of destiny, which is very like tarot cards, as well as the mention of fates, which I won't go into because I don't want to ruin it, but that part of the magic I really enjoyed personally. So the series I loved, the books I loved, and for Finale, I don't know, I think I've given it a 4.5, but I'm trying to work out why I haven't just given it a 5. I don't know, because the more I look back on it, I think after finishing it, I gave it a 4.5, maybe because I was being picky with the bits that I've just said, but I loved it so much. And I think maybe because it's got this special place in my heart now, because it's got me back into, it's just opened a different doorway into fantasy. Is it for that reason that I want to give it a 5? Would I read it again? Absolutely. Would I recommend it? Yes. Would I change anything about it? I don't think so, other than that nitpicky stuff. But no, because if I were to change the bits that I've said, it would long out the book, and it would probably lead to more questions and possibly more books, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I'm not the author. I'm the reader, and I, as a reader and lover of this book and the books and the series, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. There we go. I rest my case. The next book I read was The Tin Princess by Philip Pullman. It is the final book in the Sally Lockhart Mystery Quartet, and it was a nice ending to the series for me. The Tin Princess doesn't really... We have somewhat of a guest appearance from Sally Lockhart in book 4, but it is more about some other characters that have been mentioned before in her books. I'm not going to tell you the names, simply because I don't want any spoilers. If you read the blurb, you probably will find out. I'm not sure, I didn't read the blurb. Again, it's something I do. If it's part of a series and I've already read the first book and I'm hooked, then I won't bother reading the descriptions for any of the further books. I'll just go straight to the book. I'll tell you one of the characters, actually. I think one I could tell you without it being a spoiler, and that is book 4 is more based around Jim Taylor, who is one of Sally's best friends. And in this book, the tone is quite different from the first three, and I did enjoy it. How much can I say? Okay, let me see. Tin Princess. Okay. Sally Lockhart's friend and partner in adventure, Jim Taylor, has just solved a mystery. I'm not going to tell you what the mystery is because it says here. However, there is a future princess in danger, and her future husband is desperate to protect his bride and employs Jim as their bodyguard. And that's about it. I guess it may just be because... Oh, here we go. You can always count on Waterstones, can't we? Okay. Jim Taylor, Sally Lockhart's oldest friend, is engaged as bodyguard to a princess. But the crown princess of Raskavia is not what you'd expect. I'm cutting a few bits out. With her life in mortal danger, together they must battle against unknown enemies in a country where no one can be trusted. With those descriptions, there's not a lot to go by. It's a well-written mystery. The plot I wasn't blown away by, but I did enjoy it, and what I really liked was the dry humour in this book. It came out a lot more than the previous books. I was laughing quite a bit throughout the book. The characters, I did miss Sally, however, Jim was equally as entertaining, as well as some new characters, which again, they made me laugh. I enjoyed reading about them, and overall, it was a good book. I gave it a 3.5. The series itself, I think this series has made me decide to add in the 0.75 into my point rating system. Or should I leave it at 3.5? Clearly, I still haven't decided. I'm in between a 3.5 and 3.75 for the whole Sally Lockhart quartet. Book 4, I did enjoy it. I'd give it 3.5. Next book that I read in April was part of a duology, and it was Divine Rivals. And I actually read book 2 as well, so I don't have it with me at the moment. So book 1 is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, and book 2 was called Ruthless Vows. 2 arrivals, 2 stories, 2 hearts, 1 fate. When 2 rival journalists find love through a magical connection, their fate depends on their facing the depths of hell together. After centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again. All 18-year-old Iris Winnow wants to do is hold her family together. With a brother forced to fight on behalf of the gods now missing from the front line and a mother drowning her sorrows, Iris's best bet is winning the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. But when Iris's letters to her brother fall in the wrong hands, those of the handsome but cold Roman Kit, her rival at the paper, an unlikely magical connection forms. Expelled into the middle of a mystical war, typewriters in tow, can their bond withstand the fight for the fate of mankind and, most importantly, love? An epic enemies to lovers fantasy novel filled with hope and heartbreak and the unparalleled power of love. That would have been so good if I didn't mess up that part. I liked this book. I wanted to love it. I really did want to love it, possibly because I really like the cover. That's not a reason to love it. It had so many good reviews, and it's not a bad book. I didn't hate it. It's not a I liked it, I didn't love it. Although I didn't love it. I feel like I'm very undecided with this book. I really liked our main characters. I feel like parts of the story there was definitely a slow start. I didn't see it as rivalry, or just, I didn't think there was that much tension between them. I think it was just like mild, what is the word I'm thinking of? It was more like mild competition rather than full-on rivalry, the way I read it. And so the heat itself wasn't there. It's quite a sweet and endearing story. I liked the banter between them. There wasn't so much the god side of it. It was there. I guess there wasn't so much. Maybe I liked that more about it, because although the gods are mentioned, they don't take over the overall story. The story is a lot about them, and I guess the war, which is created by the gods, but it's more about the war, if that makes sense. It might not. I often don't make sense. I did like the book. I will say that. I think I'm going to keep it as a 3.75. And Ruthless Vows, I think that for me was a 4.5. That definitely, the pace, it upped the pace a bit more. I was a bit more invested now, a lot more invested actually. We got to know a bit more about the gods, about the history. If I'm honest, I feel like I wanted a bit more, if that makes sense, in terms of what happened with the gods. But I liked the way the story progressed, and it took a different, I didn't know what to expect of it. It's very different to anything I've read before, and I think I enjoyed that part as well. A lot of the stories based on their typewriters. They have, it's not a spoiler with me telling you, they have these magical typewriters. Parts of that felt very hard to believe, that there's times where they're just going through the picture that's painted in my head of the war with just lugging a typewriter around. So overall, a duology I would definitely recommend. For me, the enemies to lovers thing, like I said, that wasn't the main trope for me, but I still did really enjoy it. I love the characters, I liked the plot, the pace of the book. I felt the second was definitely a lot better than the first. There were bits where it dragged a bit, but not too much. And yeah, just 4 out of 5 stars for me. Final book that I read in April. Yes, I did it. I finally did it. I finished it. This is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. If this is the first video that you've seen on Vine, then you won't know, but I've been trying to read this since, I want to say January, was it even December? I was so invested. This is most likely what began giving me trust issues with BookTok. And I didn't learn, and so I read other books based on BookTok recommendations. It's not just BookTok actually. I was on BookTubers, but I think those BookTubers are also on BookTok. And anyway, I've been trying to read this on and off for, let's say, 4 months, 3 or 4 months. And you might be wondering, well, why? There was a point where I thought to myself, it's a DNF. I think I thought that twice. So let's see. The first time I picked up the book, it was because of the hype, and I read it and I thought, what is this? Just what is this? I can't care for it. So I just put it down. And then for some reason, I felt myself wondering what happens with the characters. I was thinking about them. So I thought, you know what? Let's persevere. Let's see where it goes. So I picked it up again and I read a bit more, and I thought no, because nothing was happening. And this is the book for, I want to say over 70% of the book is where there is literal minimal progress, if anything. You know what? I said I would stop doing this. Let me read what the book tells you to expect of it. How many loves do you get in a lifetime? She is a beautiful, self-involved and mildly neurotic London socialite. He is Britain's most photographed bad boy who broke her heart. But Magnolia Parks and BJ Ballantyne are meant to be, aren't they? Everyone has been going on about how much they love this couple, their team BJ and what? I don't know. What is there to love about this couple? So the book itself is dual point of view, so you're reading it from either Magnolia Parks' point of view or BJ Ballantyne's. And it says it there. I feel like I can't give you any spoilers because that is all the book is about. They were like childhood sweethearts. He cheated on her. She can't seem to forgive him, but they seem to still be in love, if that's what you want to call it. I don't want to be judgy. I don't want to say love is different to everyone. However, this book, trigger warnings. Search for the trigger warnings. The ones that I can think off the top of my head, there is alcohol. I don't know if I should say alcohol abuse, but yeah, there's drinking, there's drug use, there's just a lot of toxic behavior. I have seen a bit of controversy about people saying it's about toxic relationships, it shouldn't be written about. I think it's in the writer's prerogative to obviously write about what they want to write about, and I think you need to go into the book, and if you are affected by certain topics, then do look at trigger warnings. But yes, I would definitely say it's very, the relationship is very toxic, but that's not what really did it for me. It's the fact that I was so bored. I was so bored. It was on repeat. The way they say they love each other, that they're still into each other, they spend time together, and then they continue to just do things to hurt each other on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. And then we have another character that's introduced that's meant to add a bit more to it. He added a bit to it, not much in my opinion. And then what happens is, when we get, I believe it literally was 200 pages in, around halfway through the book, something happens, something is revealed, but by that time I had lost so much interest. I didn't care. I didn't care for that twist. I didn't care for that reveal, because I was like, oh, and what? And you're probably thinking, so why did you continue? I wanted to see what the hype was about. I thought, let me just give it till the end to see what happens. Does it progress? Is it one of those ones where it just lifts up? I think for quite a few of the books, they haven't been awful, but they have got better for me in the last third, and I thought maybe this will do the same. It did not. I'm going to look through my notes, try and find some positives. I don't know. I mean, even the characters, I didn't hate them, I didn't love them, I didn't really feel anything for them. No, I think I felt sorry for them. For our main characters, I was like, am I that much older? I don't think it's an age thing. I don't know if it's a maturity thing. I like the fact that reading helps open up my mind to just different ways of thinking, different perspectives, and I guess that's what this book did. It made me question whether I thought I was quite an open-minded person. Maybe I'm not as open-minded as I thought. Maybe this is what relationships, or younger people's relationships, are like these days, and it's very scary if it is. And then I refuse to believe that they are, and so then it just feels a lot more like it's just fake. I guess it has been likened to Gossip Girl meets Made in Chelsea. I don't watch Gossip Girl. I've seen a few episodes of Made in Chelsea, and I couldn't continue to watch it because it was just such fake drama. And maybe that's what it is. I'm not into fake drama. I'm not really into drama, but when it's just so scripted and wooden, it's not for me. And I think that's what this book was. Yeah. So I've given it a 2 out of 5. Why even that? Let's see. I guess I was invested enough to continue till the end. And would I read more of the books? For them too, I'm not too sure. However, the second book is Daisy Hates, and she's mentioned in here with Christian, and them two as characters, they may be a bit more interested than Magnolia and BJ. It's not one that I will run to. If I happen to come across it, then I possibly will read it, and maybe that's what's brought it up to a 2 out of 5 for me. Would I recommend it? Now, I have said that anything under 3 out of 5 stars I wouldn't recommend. However, I was discussing this book in my book club, even though we didn't read it as part of the book club. I was just telling them about the other books that I read. And one of my friends, she watches Gossip Girl, and she said this sounded exactly like that. And so to her, I said, I would probably recommend this for you. I told her I was very bored because there didn't seem to be any progress through most of the book. Basically, the first 200 pages could have just been condensed into probably 2 chapters, maybe 3. I personally wouldn't recommend it, but if you told me that you liked Gossip Girl, I would say, yeah, you probably will like this. Maybe. But yeah, for now, the Magnolia Parks universe, no thank you. And it's a shame because I really love this cover. I love this cover so much. I really wanted to love the books because then I would have just bought the books to have on my bookshelf, on my currently non-existent bookshelf. I persevered. I wanted to know what the hype was about, but also I didn't think it was fair that I kept putting down the book having not read it fully. I have read it fully. It's just not for me. it is such a personal thing because there are so many people that seem to love this universe and I'm just not one of those. So I'm glad I finished it. And goodbye, Magnolia Parks. And those are the books that I read in April. As I said, a lot more than what I usually get through. I would love to be able to read that many every month, if not more. I don't know if it's possible or if it's sustainable for me, but we'll see. I feel this video was definitely long enough, so I'm going to do my May TBR in a different video. And that's it for now. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned, then let me know your thoughts on them. Or if you've got any questions about the ones I've read, then just let me know. Thank you for watching as always, and I would love for you to subscribe and have a lovely, lovely day. Goodbye.